Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Today we have a special guest with us. Most of you already saw the posts and who we're going to have on, but we have Ray Ross, who was supervising animator at Blue Sky, went to Disney for a little bit, and now is at Illumination. And so let me bring him on right here.
Hello.
Hello. So,
Should I?
I was going to say, so Cynthia, do you want to kind of introduce the stream a little bit for anybody that's new? And then we can segue
Yeah,
right
for
into Ray
sure.
Ross.
So for anyone who's new at this stream that we have, this is basically a thing that Daniel, Madison, and I started a few weeks ago to first give some feedback to a set of students that we have. And also we open it up for more people who might want extra feedback during the week. And we also plan to have interviews like this one with Ray and panels and demos. So stay tuned and check out our Instagram and our Discord. I will post the links now just to keep updated to when we have new things. We're all animators who've been in the industry for a while now. We are all animation mentor graduates, and I want to keep it short because you're all here for Ray, who is this amazing human who is right here. So Ray, do you want to talk a bit about yourself and how you got to be this amazing animator?
You're way too kind. I don't think I would use those words, but sure. So I am an animator. And I guess to give you a backstory on my career, let's go really quickly, the Cliff Note version. I like to draw. I still do. So I have an Instagram where you can see some of my drawings, and I was always an artistic kid. I was always the one bringing a sketchbook somewhere. Watch cartoons. I was definitely the TV generation where my parents just sat me in front of the TV because they were like working or doing something very different than now. And basically watched a lot of Looney Tunes growing up. And so I wanted to be an artist. So that was my career path. I wanted to do something with art. And so I wound up going to the High School of Art and Design, which is in New York City. That's where I'm from. And I studied commercial art there. And then basically learned a little bit of computer graphics as well. And then so I did pretty well. And I always tell the story to my students is I did great for the first 3 years of high school. My fourth year, I went from basically a straight A student to failing out of school, flunking out. Bad life choices, cutting class with friends, just the reality of what was happening. I'm not sugarcoating any of that. So that's kind of what happened. And then basically a teacher changed kind of my career path. And so I had him for a few years. He was my computer graphics teacher, Mr. Prasad, and he brought me to the front of the class at the end of class. And he said, listen, I'm going to pass you anyway. He goes, I know that you must be going through something, but I'm gonna pass you. And he did not need to do that. I was absolutely flunking out. And so that kind of just changed my mentality. I was like, this isn't right at all. And then somehow I don't really recall how I was introduced to an internship opportunity in high school, but basically I interviewed for New York University had a Center for Advanced Technology. I wound up interviewing, I wound up getting the internship there, and I got exposed to 3D Studio Max and After Effects. And then right then and there, that's when it all, once I started doing 3D, that was the end of it. I was so excited. I went to the School of Visual Arts and also in New York. I wanted to do 3D. I didn't know about animation, like specifically to want to do that. So probably sophomore year, junior year, I started doing animation. And then I got another internship, junior year of college. And it's just one bit that I want to say is you just got to try. Like I walked up to people at the end of this presentation they were doing, and I was just like, hey guys, you guys are presenting this really cool stuff. Can I be an intern there? And they were just like, oh, yeah. And right then and there, I was just like, okay. And so right then and there, I got my start in another internship, and they basically gave me my first job outside of college. I moved on. I worked in commercials. I worked remotely for Real Effects for a while. And then I got an email to work at Blue Sky, which is also really weird because it wasn't an interview. It was an email. You're like, hey, do you want to work on Horton? Here's a Who. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I started there, and then that kind of was like how I just kind of kicked off. And I worked my way up there from basically a project hire, which is just temporary, to full-time animator, senior animator, lead animator, and then supervising animator. And then I went to Disney, worked on Encanto, and then going to be heading over to Illumination is the next thing. And then I've been teaching here, well, not here, Animation Mentor for over 10 years now. I think it's 10 years and 4 months straight.
Whoa.
No breaks.
So long. So before, like, your first internships, were they also animation, or were they more like generalist?
The first internship was more of a generalist for credit. It was like a credit for school. So I basically had to learn things about whatever was going on there, which was basically 3D. I was studying animation and After Effects. Nobody was teaching it to me, so it wasn't really like that. And then I had to do a presentation in school based off of like basically what I found, like what I was learning there, all of that stuff. And that was what was going to pass or fail me. I don't really remember that too much either. I do remember showing Victor Navone's Alien song. That's how long ago it was. I think it had just come out maybe. So if you want to try to date me somehow, that's the time. So.
But yeah, I think I've never found out your real age. You always keep it very hidden.
I always say I'm like really old, and I'm getting more gray in my beard. I'll say that I'm not 40 yet. So there's that. So some of you may be going, you're not old then.
Here's a question.
Yeah, you're not that old. Hey.
Here's a quick question.
30s is the new 20s.
Yeah.
What was your first shot you ever worked on at Blue Sky? Do you remember?
I will never forget. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember exactly what it was. And I'll tell you this, I got the shot and I was excited for it. And I had no like qualms. I was like, this is awesome. And they were coconut shots. Horton was throwing a coconut, and the coconut hit the ground and bounced off. And I think there might've been 2 of them. 2 shots, I think. They both got cut from the film. So, but I remember doing them.
Oh no.
Very overwhelming, I'll tell you for sure, because you're just like, if this will help anybody, I woke up every day at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. just like sweating and panicked, going, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. Like some of the work I was seeing in Sweatbox, I was just like, this is amazing. Like, how do they expect me to do that? And then I found out everybody has that exact same panic. And then eventually you get better and you get more comfortable, and then it's fine.
Yeah,
I
I've had the same thing. Sorry, Dan, but my first month at my job, every single day I was thinking, this is when they fire me. This is when they fire me. And then a friend joined me a few months later, and she's like, oh my god, every day I think they're gonna fire me. Ah, no, don't worry. You're gonna deal with it later. It's
right.
okay. Yeah. So glad to hear everyone went through it as well.
Oh, it's a common thread for sure. That's how everybody feels the same exact way. And it's just imposter syndrome. You don't think you deserve to be there, and you don't think you're good enough. But no matter what, no matter how long you've been doing it, you always worry about that,
Yeah. Someone is asking, does that fear ever get away though? Like, they have a feeling it doesn't.
Oh no, it definitely goes away. It definitely goes away as long as you are not doing what you think you're doing, meaning that you are producing, you are delivering what the director wants. That fear should be gone. Obviously, if you're struggling for a very long time, and I'm not talking about once, everybody struggles once in a while on shots or doesn't hit. That happens to everybody. Sometimes the director changes their mind, or you just not hit it, whatever. That's fine. You just don't want to do it on every shot. Then maybe a little fear should set in, or reach out for help.
Always good advice. Dan, you were going to ask something, and I think I cut you off.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I think I've heard that from like 4 or 5 people at Blue Sky about Horton in particular, of like waking up at like super, super early in the morning, like cold sweats, like, oh my gosh. Like, I think for me, like I had that a little bit on my first production job, but I think it kind of went away right as I figured out what they were expecting of me, because I think that was where like most of the stress came in, was like, I don't know what they're expecting of me, so I have to give everything I have in every single shot, and I hope it's good enough. But then once I got like 2, 3, 4 shots approved, then you realize, oh, I know what they're expecting of me. Now I know what I have to hit on each shot in order to not get fired.
Right. Exactly. I think a lot of the stress also happens with working for new companies and then not knowing the pipeline, or if you don't know a pipeline at all. Because like I'll be honest, once I got to Blue Sky, I had worked at other places, but it was just not exactly the same. And so once you learn the pipeline, though, it does become easier, like to transition. So I really didn't have that. I haven't started at Illumination yet, but I don't anticipate having that fear of waking up at 5 a.m. anymore, because I understand the pipeline. I just need to know what the equivalent is. And once I learn that, it's not a big deal.
Do you remember throughout your career what's the hardest shot, or the one that gave you the most stress because it was, I don't know, super complicated, or you weren't getting it right? Any shot that is marked in your brain as, oh my God, that time was awful? Because I know I've had it, and I've only been in the industry for less than 2 years.
There's a few that come to mind, so it's always tricky to try to figure it out. But okay, I'll go with this one. There's a couple. One of them was a long shot that I had, and the director kicked me off saying he didn't know what he wanted, but that wasn't what stressed me out. It was like actually made it easier. It was just a technically difficult shot that the camera kept changing, and so that was difficult. But I will say there was a shot that does come to mind. It's never shown up in my reel. It will never show up on my reel, and it was a short shot of Manny doing something. And this is where you'll hear this from a lot of people. I did not plan the shot, because it was a very quick, simple, I thought a simple shot, right? It's very, very short, not many frames. And I was actually leaving the production. I was going on to another production to do something else. So they were like, oh, can you just help out with this really quick? And I was like, yeah, whatever. So I just didn't spend enough time planning it. And that really kind of got me, for sure. Like, to the point where I thought that the directors were messing with me. Like, I was sending them text messages, because I was like, I would actually was so tired of showing it in dailies that I would take video of my shot on my screen and then just send it to them through a text message. And then they would be able to give me feedback while they're in a different meeting somewhere else, and it was like, it was my fault, because I just was not invested in it at all. Like, that's when I was just completely shut off. I was just like, oh yeah, I'll just get this done real quick. It's not that, it wasn't like a head turn or anything, but I was like, this is easy. No, definitely not. Not happy with it. It was still a nothing shot to me, but I wasn't hitting what they were wanting, and I'm still not sure if they got what they wanted out of it. I don't know.
Had you done reference for it?
It couldn't really. It wasn't really a shot that could use reference that much, I'll say. It was a very exaggerated thing, but it was very, very short. If I remember, it was like 20 frames. It wasn't a lot, but it was an action that the character was doing, and it was very snappy and fast. And I think there was something specific that maybe I was just missing at that time. And I wasn't completely invested, because I was already, my foot was in another production going, okay, I'm getting off of this. I just want to get into this already. So
do you find it hard to finish a production, like the last 2, 3 shots on a production after you've been on it for 2 years, like to finish those last few shots? Do you find it hard to like finish those shots up?
It's difficult, I will say, especially when you're just exhausted and you're trying to finish that race, when you're like, I have no more steam left in me, but I need to do this. So it's not like you're super excited, but you do your best, for sure, to like, okay, I have to finish strong. Like, I'm still invested. I'm still shooting reference. I'm still doing all of that stuff. I don't make that mistake again. I will not do that. Not planning something, especially when I was, again, it wasn't like my last shot. I was already, they were like, oh, you're going to be on pre-production for this show. And I was like, okay, cool. All right, see ya. Like, no, just do this. But here's a billion notes. And makes you feel like you can't animate.
Yeah.
So it happens to everyone.
Yeah, I feel like that's the worst feeling, when you don't even understand what it is that's happening that's not working. And so it's like, is it me? Is it them? Is it the shot? So opposite to that question, what's the shot that you had the most fun on, that the one that you loved working on, that you're like, this was the best experience I've had with a shot?
That's tricky because there's just so many that it becomes hard to say like a specific shot. I can say specific shows. That becomes easier, like an overall show. I will say there are 2 shows that come to mind, and I'm just gonna talk more mainly at Blue Sky shows for now. That would be Spies in Disguise and Ice Age 4. And so you're like, well, why? Why would those 2 random? Well, not random. Why Ice Age 4 out of all of them, and then why Spies? Well, number one, something that's become very important to me after this career is like, yes, projects are very important. And when you're new to the industry, you're like, oh, I want to work on this project. It's going to be so cool. It's the people that you work with that are really the most important to me. Like me working with what director or supervisors, any type of leadership, anybody that I'm working with on a daily basis. And so with that, and I don't think the directors are here, but the directors of Spies were great to work with. So it definitely made it a lot easier. The supervisors of Spies, these are all, great people that I know really, really personally well. And it made it feel like you were working on a film with some friends. It's like you're part of a team, but it's like, oh yeah, like it's very casual. It doesn't feel very stale. Like when you're getting a kickoff, it's like, oh, do this. Okay. It's like, it's very casual. So it was great. And Ice Age 4 was the same. The leadership there, the supervisors specifically, just made it a fun production to be on. So that definitely changes. It changes a lot. And you will all see, if you stay at a place long enough or you stay at different places, you're going to realize that the people you surround yourself with, that's what is the most important, because you need good people around you. I cherish that more than anything.
Yeah, I've been very lucky so far. The 2 teams that I've been on, everyone is super nice and friendly. So it's made my job much easier, because you're never like, oh no, this is going to happen and I need to talk with this person and it's going to be a struggle because it's hard to talk with them. No, everything is super easy. So
right, exactly. That's how Disney was. So like Disney, everybody was great. Like again, I'm not gonna talk. Blue Sky, people were awesome. I love all those people. Disney, same thing. People were like so nice. Like they were so helpful. Everybody was so nice, and that means so much, So
I know there's typically, like, I know you can't talk a lot about it, but moving from studio to studio, you learn little new different things from just different productions. Was there anything that you went to Disney and you were like, oh, that's really cool? Like, maybe even something small and like how production is run, or something that was like markedly different or nice that was at Disney that wasn't at Blue Sky?
yeah, absolutely. I will say, so basically when I left Blue Sky, I was a supervisor, and then coming into Disney, I was an animator. And so being able to see it from a different perspective again, being able to go, okay, I used to be in that position of casting and reviewing shots, and now I'm on the other end of that, and then seeing how they run it, let's say there, I wish I had that insight before. So while I was supervising at Blue Sky, I'd be like, this is something that maybe we can implement here, or maybe we can try something different. And again, it goes both ways. It's like, oh, there might be something great at this studio that you might want to bring to that one. But for me, it was production and pipeline. And again, I don't want to say too much about certain things, but every studio has their pros and cons, things that you're like, this is amazing. This is like, I wish we always did that. And then sometimes you're like, I don't know if I would do this, So you learn something everywhere you go. And it's honestly, most of the time, it's just different. So something that you may think is great, somebody might not like. Something you don't like, somebody's like, this is awesome.
Yep.
How did it feel for you? Because you went from supervisor to animator at Disney. How did it feel for you, that change? Because I know that you animated when you were a supervisor, but I'm guessing not as much as you did at Disney. So how did that change feel for you?
I really enjoyed it. And I also, I really enjoyed being able to do that. And I also really enjoyed knowing what supervisors kind of look for in an artist, that makes it easier for, let's say, them to do their job. And then for you to do your job, it's like being on the other side made me go, yeah, give me notes. Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. This is fantastic. Let's do this. Whatever. You want me to change it? Not a problem. Instead of it being more of a discussion that could be bigger than it should, like just different things, is like knowing why people are doing certain things. I think that's something that is very different, is that animators don't really know, unless you have been in a position before, why certain decisions get made, why shots get cast a certain way, why bidding happens a certain way, why notes are given a certain way. When you're not in that position, you have no understanding of it. So you just come up with your own reason. They cast me this shot because they think I'm terrible. But on the flip side, they're like, no, I cast you this shot because this is a great shot. And also we're spreading the wealth so everybody gets great shots. You can't always get great shots. So yeah, so I think just having that perspective is really helpful.
I think that perspective flips around the same for like teaching and being a student. Of like something I'm sure all of us have realized, of like when you're a student and you're getting notes from a mentor, sometimes they seem very harsh, or sometimes you don't know why they're giving that note and you're like, what is going on? But then as we've all gone from being students to like helping other people, I'm like, oh, like that's why they gave that note, or this is why they were saying that. And you start to understand a lot more the good and bad sides of being a mentor. And you're like, I can put myself in those shoes now. And I feel like if I was to go back to be a student now, I'd be a lot more effective because I've been in that other side of the fence.
It's difficult because
Yeah.
sometimes, as a note that you'd want to deliver to, let's say, a student or an employee, you know the implications of a note because you animate. So if I give this note, they may have to restart, or you try to figure a way to give a note so that they don't have to restart. So all of that stuff, it's a juggling act of not just being mean or any of that stuff, just delivering harsh things. It's like, how do I make them, keep them inspired, and also just, give notes that are going to help.
Yeah, speaking of teaching, someone asked a very good question, which was, what made you decide to go into teaching?
That is a great question. So I will say, I've been doing, I'll say, doing the teaching thing way before Animation Mentor. Like, I was always helping anybody who emailed me, like reached out somehow and was like, hey, I have some stuff. Can I show you it? And I always said yes. It was like always. And it was fine. And it was rewarding at times. Sometimes I would see people become really successful and get into like a studio, or sometimes people would just drop off and disappear. And that was the thing that I did not like the most, is where I would invest so much of my energy to like review stuff and work with people for a long time. And then one day you don't even remember. You give them notes, and then they just never hear from them ever again. Ever. They're just gone. And so that was quite frustrating for me, because like I wanted to see people grow, and there was no communication. And so once Animation Mentor came out, and the opportunity to teach there, it was a structure that felt like, okay, there's going to be way better communication than just some random person emailing me. I still get those and I still will respond to them. But in terms of the investment of teaching, I can't do that outside of Animation Mentor, because obviously that's definitely a priority for me. But the structure is what helped. And the main reason I teach is because I'd love to see other people do what I had. That same feeling of like, I bought every single animated movie up until a certain point, like everything. If there was an animated animation book out there by anybody, I probably own it. And so I just studied like so much, and I just love to learn and get better. And so when I see students do that, there's just like the connection, like that same feel. We have the same interest. And so if I can say anything to help in any way, it's like, we may be working together. That could be awesome. Like, we're the same type of people. Most animators tend to be very similar type people, right? Same interests in whatever, art or whatever. So that's the main reason for me, is I like to see other people achieve their G. And I know that's kind of cheesy, but that's why I do it all the time. It's just because I like to see the success stories. And I tell my students that all the time. Like that's like the biggest reward, is when I hear a student's like, I got a job here. I'm like, oh man, that is so awesome. Like, your career is just getting started, and you're going to be in it. So It's fun.
Yeah, for us, it's exciting too. I mean, I remember when I first got my job, I think you were one of the first people that I met. I was like, Ray, I got my job. Thank you for everything. And it, like you said, I think that there's not that many mentors, not, I'm saying, not speaking about AM, but like in life, that inspire you as much, because I think that we can feel the passion that you have while you teach, which a lot of people just teach because it's their job. But it seems like there's something more for you than just, oh, it's my job and that's why I do it. So that's great to see.
Selfish. I like when people succeed, and so you make me feel good when you succeed. So it's a very selfish relationship, is really what it is.
But I 100% agree with like what Sin's saying, is that I've been to different mentors at AM or not at AM, different schools here and then. You can definitely tell the ones that are passionate, and you can definitely tell the ones that are very professional with, it's like, you have this much time and you ask your questions within that time, and then nothing until the next class time or something like that. And it's very, very strict. And then you have, you where you're just like, it's talking, it's more like a friend helping out a friend, as opposed to, I'm telling you these things, write them down and remember them. It's more like, a friend helping out a friend, which is so much easier to like learn.
That's, if you're going to take anything away from this, is that I am not professional when I'm teaching. That is for sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Come on, your classes are so prepared. For anyone here who needs to sign up at class 4 at AM at some point, if you don't take Ray's class, then you're wasting your money. Like, each class is packed with knowledge. Packed. So much. So
It's all stress. It's all stress. If I'm not prepared, I'm super stressed. Like, you cannot send me somewhere and say, hey, present a top. If you were like, hey, let's talk about this right now, I'd go, let me find my notebook.
Are you a paper notebook guy, or are you a digital notebook guy?
I'm kind of both. Like, I write some stuff down, and then I print it out and I punch holes in it and I stick it in a binder.
Nice.
I'm relatively organized. That's why I have that like producer, like organizational scheduling brain sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I like writing, but I can't understand my handwriting afterwards, so I have to do everything digital just so I can type quick and understand what I was trying to say afterwards.
My grammar's not all that great either, so that's why I'll never publish a book. But, or I guess you'd need a publisher, right? That'll help, an editor.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I have to type everything on my computer, mainly because usually whatever I have to write, if it's notes, I will share them with people. If it's a schedule, there's probably more people involved. So I'm like, nah, I'll just type it. It will be faster for me in the future. So, yeah.
I like to be organized where I can.
Yeah. Makes life so much easier.
It does. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, before like we were talking about you being a supervisor, what's something that you really enjoyed about that job?
About supervising?
Yeah.
I will say, honestly, it was really just helping people, because that was the main thing for me, was being able to help the team. And unfortunately, like, my career in a way kind of got cut short because I was supervising a film that never saw the light of day. And so we had a pre-production team of about 12 people. And so it was me and another supervisor, and we had a lot of meetings, and we would cast our pre-production team, and being able to work with them very closely on getting these characters up and running, which was really just kind of a great team effort. And so that was really a big one for me, was being able to kind of work with people, giving people opportunities to kind of move up, and being able to help, really. I think it was just such a nice thing. And pre-production is such a fun thing because it's such a small team most of the time. In most places, it's a small production or a small team to lead the pre-production. So it's a very intimate thing where it's not like you're dealing with a team of 80 or 100 animators. You're dealing with a very small amount. So it becomes a tight group. And we watched movies for reference that were kind of based closely on the film we were working on. We would do group lunches, and we would bring in people to like shoot reference for like certain aspects of a character's design. We would use people's, let's say, hair, and we brought in like a model that had a similar quality, and we would shoot reference of that. It was like a whole thing that we were doing together. So it felt like a very collaborative, small collaborative environment. So I really did enjoy that aspect. The supervising part in terms of like giving notes in terms of on shots, we did that as, you know, I did that as a lead on all the other films as well. So that was not really all that different in that respect. But that's also just helping people. It's just, you know, making sure the character's on model, make sure the performance is on model, not necessarily making sure it's hitting what the director wants, because you don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen. So we would only, that would be up for the supervisor. The leads would just help with the animation part of it. So
Yeah,
so
but
yeah.
supervisors, like the supervising seemed super fun. It seemed very creative, at least for the pre-production.
Oh, it
sounds
is.
super
It
cool.
definitely is. And again, it's very different in different studios, I'll say. The terminology in Blue Sky is very different in terms of the hierarchy. Our supervisors were really more heads. So they were really heads of the department in terms of the show. So they would have two heads, but we were called supervisors. And our leads were really kind of the supervisors at other studios, like equivalent in terms of the responsibilities. Except, no, I guess supervisor, so supervisor Blue Sky, we didn't really have a chance to animate as much. So that's the only downfall. And loving to animate, that's kind of one of those things. It's like you're sacrificing your passion a little bit to help. So you know that going in there, it's not a surprise. So, but it is fun. It was definitely fun. But also, if you love animating, you sometimes, it's a refresher to go back and just do that too.
Being in
bet.
a, I was gonna say, being in a supervisor role and like time at that pre-production process, do you have an extra special love animating a character you've seen start from scratch? Like I'm kind of seeing that with like Cynthia and Madison. We're all like helping build a character that we're gonna like rig up and animate, and I'm finding like I'm so excited to like get this character rigged so I can animate it, because I've seen it from concept art and like giving notes and like figuring out what this character is going to look like. As a supervisor, do you have an extra special connection to characters that you kind of helped all the way through the process?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's so rewarding to see this character that was just a design. And then you're going to modeling meetings, and then you're going to like every aspect of that character. You're going to meetings about shoelaces and shirts and, you know, what kind of hair, you know, all of that stuff. You go into like very, very detailed about all of that. And it is refreshing, or not refreshing, inspiring to see what the animators do with it, because everything that you plan for in pre-production for that character to be, animators will surprise you with different ways that they can animate it, but it still feels within character. And you're like, I never would have thought of that choice, but it really works. And so it's definitely a great experience. And I've been on a lot of pre-productions, some that were canceled twice, I'll say. I was on a film twice for pre-production, and it was really nice. It was fun and it was very exciting. But it was just like a weird transition that we never got to finish it.
Can you say which character in a movie that's been released that you have like the most like really happy with how it turned out and how it was animated, and like from start to finish, the character, the animation, the modeling, all of that, which character did you like connect with the most?
I'll say honestly, it's the more recent one, which was Walter from Spies, just because I feel like we all kind of have a little bit of Walter in us. We're all sitting at a computer animating. We're all kind of somewhat nerdy, whether you want to admit it or not. We're all kind of nerds. We make cartoons. So I don't know if it doesn't get any nerdier than that, but I think that connecting with him on that level, and the fact that he's just kind of awkward, is like refreshing, and he's very sincere and genuine. And it was just a really nice experience to be on that. And there's just so many meetings and things. It just was so fun to be there and to be part of it. So I'll definitely say that. I mean, the other characters were great too. It's just I felt an extra long amount of time invested in Walter, because I was actually working on all of the characters in pre-production, because I was on the show for pretty long. And so I worked with Lance. I worked with the Lance Bird. I worked with a lot of them. I just focused on Walter later on. And actually, yeah, even Killian, like all of them. So again, it's a group effort, and they all have a special place in my heart for sure.
So we have a bunch of questions here. I'm trying to figure out which one is the best to go to next, but I think my favorite question is, what is your current top dad joke?
That is, so I'm going to say this. Anybody who follows me on Facebook or whatever will see me post a dad joke. And I love dad jokes. And we did this at Blue Sky too. There was a guy that I'm good friends with who's in rigging, and it's great because he's just in a different department. He would always I would always go, "Hey Todd, do you have a joke for the meeting?" Because it didn't start yet. And then he would announce his dad joke for the meeting just so that we could look at him and go, "Oh man, you said that." And the reason I say this is because I love dad jokes, but I don't remember them. Like I don't know them. Like I read it and go, "This is pretty funny." It's like, oh, the last one of the ones I posted, I think was like, my wife rearranged my spice cabinet. I'm going to let her know the time is coming, or cumin. It was, it was a play on the THYME. It's so cheesy and so crappy, but that's what I like about it. I like that it's just so bad that I can hear the person reading it going, "Oh my God," on the other side of it. That makes me appreciate it more. It's not really the joke itself. It's the reaction that I know I'm getting when people read it that I like better. They're like, "This is horrible. Why would you post this?" So
some are so bad, but they're so bad they work.
Right.
Yeah, it's a performance art.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a very deep thing for me. So yeah, it's not like I'm at home telling dad jokes to my kid or anything. It's not like I'm like constantly joking around. I never do, but I post them online for the reaction.
Well, people here are loving them, so keep posting them.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry.
Do you think you'll be the dad that when your daughter gets older, you will start telling her dad jokes?
I think so. I hope I don't embarrass her in any way. I think we're getting to that point. She's 10. She's going to be 11. So we're getting close to the embarrassing point. Yeah, so we'll see what I can do. I'll do my best.
So another question that I think it's interesting in terms of acting, and since you teach introduction to acting at AM, it could be a good one to talk about. How do you make a shot not more complicated than it needs to be? I think a lot of, especially the students, struggle a lot with overly complicating shots at the beginning.
That is a great question. And I think it's inherent in our personalities to want to do cool animation on every shot that we do. We're like, "Oh, I want to do this cool thing. This is going to be really fun if I do this." But the main thing you need to be thinking about is like, what is the goal of the shot? What are you trying to say? If it's for a production, that's a little bit clear because it's like, this is what we need from the shot. And you need to make sure you show that. Any extra stuff that you show is just going to be fluff, could overcomplicate the idea. As a student, you don't have that direction, right? Because you're coming up with it. But you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to say here? And remember that part of it. It's like, oh, my character's coming into a room and I don't know, gonna pick up this chair or something. It's like, well, does a character need to do a backflip and then like answer the phone and then jump over the dog to pick up the chair? It's like, why are you gonna do all of that extra crazy animation for what? So I think you have to boil it down to keeping it as simple as possible. And that's why it's so hard to do that, because it's the opposite of what you want to do. You want to do something more like bigger and, busy. Just ask, like, what am I trying to show? And then think about what you're actually doing and then see like, okay, wait, do I need to do this? Why am I doing this here? Because like, I'm trying to show this, like this part's not helping. It's actually making it more complicated or not giving enough time for the thing you're trying to show. You're trimming away time by doing something that might not be necessary. And you have to be willing to get rid of that stuff. Like you have to be willing to go, okay, yeah, this was a really cool action or a really cool secondary action that I was doing, but is it is that the most important thing? Because I'll tell you, my kid watching the movie is not really going to care that, you know, you scratched your neck before you picked up that cup. It's like, that doesn't really matter. Not to say that secondary actions doesn't matter. Just pick your battles. Make sure that, you know, you're making the decision.
Yeah, I remember when I was in your class and I was doing the pantomime shot. I think I've told you this before, but at one point I had my character looking up and I had the whole reason why in my brain, oh yeah, she's looking up because she's remembering blah, blah, blah. And the first thing you said in the critique was, why is she looking up? This doesn't make sense. Like you said it nicer than what I'm saying right now, but like this doesn't make sense. There has to be a reason and we need to understand it right away without you explaining why she's looking up. You need to think about every single action has to have a reason. And my mind went, because suddenly things made more sense. Like, oh, I'm complicating things because I think they make sense. But when other people look at it, it was unnecessary.
Which is why I tend to not read the student notes before I look at the work, because I want to see if I understand what they're going for. And it's also another reason when I'm presenting, if anybody ever works with me and I'm showing my shots to a director or supervisor, I do not explain anything unless it's something that's necessary, like, oh, I added frames to the shot, or this is a new camera. I don't talk about my animation too much because I want to make sure that it's understood. I don't want to give you information that you go, oh yeah, okay, it kind of looks like the character is doing that. It starts to kind of, I don't know, mess with your perception of it. So you should not have to explain your work. It should speak for itself for the most part. So that's why for me, I typically don't say too much about the animation itself unless it's like business parts of it.
Did you have a lot of people when you were mostly a lead that would do that would over explain things or try to fight every single thing? Like, how did you deal with that? I'm guessing you also have it with students that try to basically fight notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this, and this is great, is that there has been a shift at some point. I don't know when, but there has definitely been a shift in people who actually come to animation school and like animation mentor, I will say, for me, where it feels more like it's people passionate about animating versus like this is kind of a hobby kind of thing. I feel like that passion lets people be more receptive to getting better. I don't really have too many students that are combative, and I do leave it open like to a more of a discussion with notes. Like, this is not working. Here's a suggestion. It doesn't have to be this suggestion, but this is what's not working. And so we need to make this clear, right? And it's like, whatever you want to do, it doesn't have to be what I say, because I don't want to dictate and say, do this. Like, I don't think, for me, I don't want supervisors to handhold me in a shot. That's not very creative for anybody, right? I don't want somebody to go on in frame 2, okay, make the arm higher. It's like, okay, well, why? Yeah, no, just make it higher. Okay, fine. And then you don't feel like you're working, like you're being an artist. And so I don't really, and even for it, when I would work with other people, I didn't really get a combative nature necessarily. It was more like, here's why we would pose the character this way. We've defined this in pre-production, and this is on model. And so there was never like, no, it's not. Because that's not really, you can't really do that when it's like, I spent years on pre-production. This is what we defined. The directors want this. This is the way that the character smiles. And so there's never been any issue with that, which is fortunate. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it definitely can, but I never experienced it, thankfully.
That's great. Yeah. Let me see. Oh, in the meantime, one very important question that we had was, where did you get your glasses?
So, little tidbit about that. So these are my actual glasses. So these are the glasses I used to wear on a daily basis. And I bought these to work because I was sitting at the computer too long. So they have the blue light thing or whatever. I think I got them from, I don't remember. Maybe it was Eyes by Direct, maybe, or something like that. And so I got them because, again, they were mainly for the screen and my eyes were less fatigued, even though there's really no studies about blue light doing that. But Maybe it's a placebo. I feel like it does. And then I just wear them all the time now for some reason. So I ordered them online. And I actually, at that time, I got super excited that I could order glasses online because I was so tired of going to the eye doctor that I ordered a bunch. So I have like my when I'm doing work around the house, I have like construction. I'm trying to see if I have them, like construction glasses that I put on that are like safety glasses. I have sunglasses that are like mirrors on them, so you can't see my eyes.
So your vision is good. You just use them for fun?
No. But my vision's no. My vision's horrible. No. They're not fake glasses. They're real glasses. Yeah, I just hoard them, I guess. I don't know. So I have like 4 or 5 pairs of glasses, probably. So.
Nice. Another question that we had, and I think there's 2 that are kind of maybe intertwined. One is, how do you maintain your passion for animation? And another is, how do you deal with frustration?
Frustration with my work, or frustration like with everything, like just being frustrated?
It could be like mostly about maybe like your work and your life related to work.
Okay, so maybe
because I'm guessing it affects your work.
I think it's intertwined in a way where, so basically this is my philosophy. So when you first start animating or start learning animation, you have this fire that I want to sleep, breathe. I'm going to be in the shower. I'm going to put my laptop there. I'm going to animate everywhere, every time. And that's great. But you have to, you do have to realize that you need to rest. You need to relax and rest a bit, because your life, animation is fun and you love doing it. But when you start doing it for work, it is a job. You're getting paid to do it. So there isn't a stress that's not the same as a student when you're just doing it for yourself. There's I need to deliver because I'm getting paid to do this. So you need to, for me, I try not to overwork myself, because you can burn yourself out for sure. You can overwork and do so much overtime and, work 7 days a week. And then next thing you know, after 2 years of doing it, you're like, I really don't want to do this anymore. And I have seen that happen. This is why I'm saying this. And so I'm taking other people's mistakes, or let's say things that happened to them, and I was like, I'm not doing this. No way. So work-life balance is very, very, very important. I'm going to be honest. So I don't know if anybody here is that I've worked with before or I will work with in the future, but my overtime that I do for companies is based off of my passion to work on the shot. It's not about the stress of getting the shot done. I've always had it that way. I'm really excited. I'm this is really fun to work on this shot. So I'm going to do more hours to do it, versus I need to work, 50 extra hours this week to get the shot done. So that's one bit of advice, is manage your time wisely. Just because you think you're not tired and you think you're not stressed and you think you're not burnt out doesn't mean that you're not, because that's not how stress works. You will start to feel it. Your body will start to tell you you're exhausted. Frustration and inspiration, I find things that are inspiring might not even be close to animation, and that helps me with not getting frustrated too. I do things that are just things that I like to do. Clearly, I like to play video games, so that's something that sometimes I do that. I like to fix things. I like to exercise. I like to go out. All of that stuff is stuff that helps not think about working all of the time. Frustration doesn't happen too often, just because you always have to look at it from another perspective of whatever is frustrating you. If you're getting frustrated that you're not completing a shot, or you're frustrated that, I don't know, maybe the shots you're getting are not what you want, or whatever, or you're not hearing back from companies and you're sending your reels out, you can get frustrated. You can say, I don't know, maybe this is not for me, or whatever. You have to have a different attitude about it, really. You have to think about it just very, very differently. And just be I'm going to do this. Let's say it's about work. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to find myself a job no matter what. And you can't let yourself get down, because it's just going to slow you down. If you want that job, you cannot slow down. You have to just keep going. I love doing this. I always said in college, I said, I'm getting into wherever I want to go because they're going to have to hire me eventually because I'm going to work harder than somebody else. And they're going to, even if it's by accident, they're going to hire me. So I was confident that I was going to work hard enough to get a job. Like I wasn't good enough, but I was going to work hard enough. And that was the thing that I was like, this is going to help me. So I don't know where I was going with that, but honestly, like frustration it's you just can't really let that affect you, really. Yeah. Easier said than done.
That's almost exactly of what like the three of us were talking about on our first stream, was that from seeing a lot of students and a lot of people, there's almost this overcorrection of like, I have to get my 9-10 hours of sleep, or 8-9 hours of sleep. I have to do this and this. And they don't end up putting up in enough work on what they want to get good at, which again, it has to do with what your goals are. But something like what you just said is, they're going to have to accept me at some point because I'm going to work harder than everyone else. I think needs to be more of that kind of an attitude within healthy boundaries, like we were all talking about the first week. But like, sometimes you're going to have to stay up late. Sometimes you're going to have to work really hard. Sometimes you're going to have to make sure you get a shot to a standard that you're okay with, that falls within your goals, or else it's going to take you way longer to get to where you want. And you have to be conscious of where your body's at. But sometimes you just have to put in the work, and you have to work really hard.
Learning when to push yourself, learning when to pull back, like that's such a balancing act, especially like after school. Like learning how to do that in a job is difficult.
Oh yeah, for sure. It definitely is a balance. And that's why I think that when you're like learning animation at the beginning, it's okay to put in those sleepless nights. Like you have to put in that time to get it. It's just once you're in the industry and you've been working for a while, if you want to sustain, you do have to like balance your life a little bit and go, okay, can I rest and see my family? Or I'm like, no, I can't see my family because I'm going to be working. You know, you got to figure out what's the most important. But yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. You have to put in the time, which is why I do ask my students on the first class, kind of, if whatever they want to share, I do ask like, what do you do? Like, do you go to school somewhere else, or do you work full time, or, you know, whatever they want to share. I don't like to force any information out that they don't want to share, but that does affect what shots you work on. Because if somebody says, oh, I work 2 jobs and I have 4 kids, I get 2 hours a week to work on my shot. Well, that's going to really change what shots you should be working on. And it's also will obviously take you longer to achieve your goal, because there is no number. There is no number of how many animations you need to do to get that job. It's like going to a school doesn't mean you're going to get a job at the end of it. It all depends on just your natural talent, how much time you put in. It's just the reality. Some people will get it right away. I know people like that just right from school, right to film. And it was like, screw you, that's not fair. Some of us had to like do it the wrong way first, and then spend years wasting time, and then eventually you go, oh wait, I gotta course correct here, and then get where you want to go. So
true, very true. Speaking of hobbies that you were talking about earlier, someone says, because they saw that you draw very realistic drawings, and they were curious, like, what interests you in realistic style? Do you ever dabble in other styles? Do you have any desire to animate on like a realistic type of show?
I definitely have no interest in animating a realistic show at all. If you really want my honest answer about the drawing style that I was doing, I was trying to draw more cartoonier like characters. I was trying to do that. That's what I wanted to do. And I was trying so hard, and I just knew it wasn't working. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm really harsh on myself, but I'm like, this is not working. And so I was like, I got frustrated a bit with it. And so then I just changed styles. I just tried something different. And then I kind of felt that it worked better for me, because I do obsess over details a little bit. And I'm not sure why, but I do obsess over like little details of things. So sitting there and being able to draw these little details for long periods of time, which I haven't done in a little while because it's very large amounts of hours that I don't really have. But that's how I kind of fell into it. It wasn't really like, oh, I'm going to do this. It was like, I was trying to do something else. I just personally felt I wasn't getting there. And I was like, oh, this is frustrating that way. Let me just try this style and enjoying this a little bit more. So it was kind of an accident.
It was a happy accident. I sometimes zoom in the drawings and you can even see the tiny pores. It's like, whoa, that must have taken forever.
Slowly just dab throughout for like 100 hours. That's all.
So how long would you say each drawing takes?
Well, what's nice about Procreate is it does calculate that. So it could be anywhere between 60 to 200 hours. I'm not sure. Like it depends. I don't really know how it calculates that, because sometimes I do feel like it's a little bit off. Because I don't realize, I'm like, I don't think I spent 100 hours on this, but I mean, I don't know. It's a long time though. That's for sure.
Yeah, I suck at drawing, so I don't know how long things take, but I feel like they would take forever.
What do you?
Don't say that.
What do you draw on? Is it a iPad or?
Yeah, just an iPad Pro.
iPad Pro.
Yeah, just the Apple Pencil, and I was trying to get my daughter into it too, and so, you know, just one of those things. You try to force the hobby. You buy the pencil. You buy Procreate. The pencil's probably lost somewhere. Procreate.
Are you getting a family of animators then?
I was trying. That was the goal. I was going to build a studio from within, just have like my daughter be an animator, my wife be an animator. It's not as easy as you think.
I mean, if she starts like right now, by the time she can legally get a job, she's going to kick everyone's butts.
Yeah. She wants to be a gymnastics teacher, so I don't want to like jump on that and be like, okay, yeah, you stop gymnastics and get on Maya, start animating. Like, I'm gonna let her find her passion, because I feel like that's how I was able to go into drawing. Because my brothers used to always say, because both my brothers and my father are in more physical labor jobs, like electrician, iron worker, carpenter, like very physically demanding kind of professions. And they would always tell me, like, don't do this for a living. Like, work with your head, don't work with your back. They would always say that. Work smart, not hard. They always said that no matter what. But I would work with them. And so I would go to jobs and do things with them, because they were like, oh, we need help. And then next thing you know, I'm working with them. And it made sense, for me. Like, while I was doing it, I was like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is not fun. But I will say it's a very different, and this is something that's really fun for me, is that when I do physical work, so let's say I'm building something, building a deck or doing something, at the end of the day, I'm physically exhausted, right? My body hurts. My brain is there. I'm totally fine. If you ask me to animate for 10 hours, at the end of the day, I probably don't know how to say my name. Like, my brain is like mush at the end of it. Like, I'm just creatively, like, I don't want to talk to anybody right now, kind of a thing. And it's such a different feeling based off of like that work. And you might say, oh, which one do you like better? That might be a question. It's like, they're both just different. Depends on the day. Like, at the end of a physical labor day, it's like having a nice cold beer and not thinking about anything, and just doing whatever, and you're fine, is great. For me, after animating, I'm really not functioning that much.
I think that's also something really nice to grow up with, because I kind of had the same situation where I grew up doing manual labor and like building things, remodeling stuff, and having a job that's not that is nice, because like I don't like doing the physical labor out in the heat, doing all that, but it's very nice to have those skills and know those skills, and to be able to do physical labor, because it just helps you out so much in life, and it also gives you an extra appreciation for not working out in the heat during the summer.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they would always say, oh, you'll appreciate this when you get your house. And then you're like, yeah, but I'm 8. I don't even care about that. Like, and then next thing you know, you get older, and then you get a house, and then you're like, oh yeah, I don't need to call anybody to do anything. Like, that's great. So there's definitely pros and cons, but you don't appreciate that early on. That's for sure. It's like, I want to be with my friends. Why am I putting tile up? This is not fun.
Yep. Also, another
Um,
quick question, segueing off to something. You said you like to play video games. What are you playing right now?
I'm currently playing Skyward Sword on the Switch.
Nice.
So I had it for the Wii. I got it for the Switch just because, and it's been fine. Controls are horrible, but it keeps me entertained. And then playing Resident Evil Village, but I haven't played that in a while for the PS5.
What are you looking forward to playing?
I don't know actually. My gameplay is all over the map. Most of it has to be things. The reason I like Zelda is because I could pick it up and put it down very quickly. So like I'll play it on the Switch, so it's portable. I can go sit at the table really quick, play for like 10 minutes, and then it's like, hey, let's go do something, and I can just turn it off and then not have to worry about it. Any type of game that's like a long investment is a little bit harder because like I can't sit and get into it. It needs to be a very quick, I'm in, I'm out,
Yep.
kind of a thing. And that's why I don't really like online shooting games with people and stuff, because like I can get called away any minute, and I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm on your team. Oh yeah, gotta go, click, and then leave. So I never play online with people.
Yep.
I just can't. Yeah, so I love all types of games.
Do you prefer more story-based?
I do. I'm very late to the game of this game called Last of Us, and the first one and the second one, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I know some people have issues with it, but I loved it, and I thought it was really fun, and it was a story-driven kind of game, and so I was like, this is great. But again, I was like so late to it, super late, and I was like, oh man, they need to make a third one. This is awesome, and I was like, I'm gonna go work at Naughty Dog, and then we're gonna make another one.
I had an opportunity to play it because they were sponsored by Sony, and I was working for a company by Sony, so like they gave out codes, but I was crunching so hard, I was like, I don't have time to play this, but I really want to. And then by the time I got around to it, all the codes had already been taken up, so I wasn't able to play it. But I want to try it out because it seems really cool.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I was very similar. I bought it on the PS4. I downloaded it, like whatever. I bought it from the store, and then I just didn't play it for years. And then all of a sudden I picked it up because I just had time, and I was like, oh man, this is great. And then I just like kept playing it all the time. And then when I beat it, I was like, I need the second one. So I told my family to buy it for me. I think it was like for Father's Day or something. I was like, I want the second one. Then I beat that one, and then now I'm just like, I wish there was another one.
Yeah.
I feel like I collect books and games, and then I never read them or play them. If you go to my Steam, I have so many games. Every time there's a new release, I'm like, yay! And then, oh yeah, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
One day, maybe.
VR is great too. I love this. I play some games in VR. If you really want to try something, Half-Life Alyx is amazing. It is it was one of the best VR experiences I've ever had.
Yep.
I've never. I used something at CTN and it was super crazy, but I've never played a game that must be super interesting.
Oh yeah, it's really detailed, and it's a story game. I mean, it's a Half-Life game too, and so it's a story-based game. So it's a long VR game, which typically they're not very long. So I got to play it for a good amount of time. It's amazing. I can't really feel like I'm promoting it. It really is such a great game. I beat it and I was like, this is so awesome and immersive and sometimes scary.
Do you think there will ever be VR animated features that are done like super, super well?
So I will say this. This is completely my opinion. As fun as VR is, until they make it where it is not like something I have to put on my face and my eyes, as it is sitting in front of a computer all day, I'm like, this can't be healthy. We're going to be the first generation figuring this out. Is this like okay to do? So putting VR is like something I have no interest in. Animating in VR, in watching movies in VR. Like, it's a very short experience for me. When I played games and stuff, it was always like maybe 45 minutes max, maybe an hour maximum, maybe. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think the technology needs to get smaller, lighter, better, hopefully not break your eyes, I hope.
Speaking of the future, someone asked, what's your take on the future of feature now that streaming is becoming more popular?
I don't know if anybody's ready to hear my particular answer on this, but this is also strictly my opinion. I have no insight into the industry. So just because I work in the industry doesn't mean I know anything. This is just me looking at it from an outsider and also as a consumer. I like watching movies at home. I like being home. I like being able to pause the movie and go to get something to drink or go to the bathroom or pause it and go, you know what, we'll watch the rest of this later, which is the story of my life. I have a very short attention span for movies, just as another side note. So I don't really watch movies all the way through. It's not great for emotional impact on a film because it gets interrupted. But I really feel like streaming is the future. So I doubt there's any corporate people in this meeting here, but I will say financially, it does not make sense. If people are not going to the theaters currently, if the theaters don't make a comeback, the budgets for movies are way too big. It's just way too big. $200+ million, $150+ million movie that you put on a streaming site, and let's say you don't charge for it. Where's that revenue? How are they making any money? Subscriptions is not enough. You can't say, oh yeah, but like 86 people subscribed to watch this movie. It's like, yeah, you made $13. It's like, that's not going to cover for that, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure, I mean, I have no understanding of how they run this business. I'm sure they understand that it's probably a write-off for certain movies that they're doing that for. But I'm sure they're also thinking the budgets need to come down because the profit margin is very slim. But that's an unfortunate result because now if budgets get lower, you could still make great movies for cheaper, right? There's a lot of films that are done for way cheaper than super big budget movies. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't, it's not that I want that to happen. That's just what I think. I just think that streaming is the way. People are more comfortable being at home. It's a lot more convenient. It's cheaper for the consumer, right? Instead of going, oh, I got to bring my 5 kids and, you know, my spouse, and you go to the theater and you're like, oh, I want popcorn, and it's like $400. And you're like, all right, well, we're going to see one movie this year versus like, you know, free, you know, you subscribe to a streaming service, or maybe you got to pay $30. It's like, okay, that's not bad. Yeah. So either way, animation is still it's an entertainment medium. It's not going to go away at all. It's just the forms of it. I used to love working on film and going to premieres and going and seeing it, my name and the big screen. It's very rewarding to see your hard work on the big screen, you know. But at the end of the day, I also still want to have a sustainable career. So if it means we're staying streaming and I have to watch my name on a TV screen, that's cool too. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
I think also that going into streaming could possibly have a good effect on the diversity in stories, because I know with like massive $100-200 million budget films, no matter what the director is, the writers, it's all going to be watered down to an extent because it has to fit a formula that makes money. And so with moving to streaming, if they have smaller budget films, you know, it's not about the $1 billion box office hit. It's about drawing people to your service, which the more diversity you have on your platform, the more people you're going to draw in, which means it maybe will open up to people being able to get a chance taken on them to like come up with a story that is different, which I think different would be nice. Just as a movie fan, is like, it would be nice to get some more different, some more Spider-Verses of the world.
Yeah, I completely agree with that for sure. Because I think that's the other thing is that because if it is a theatrical release, you have to think about all the territories in the world that may not agree with the type of story you're trying to say. Yep. It may not appeal to them for whatever reason. The story might not fit with their culture, and they're like, well, we're not going to play this here. Yep. And you're now eliminating a certain market, and that's not good for a business person. They're trying to make the most amount of money, appeal to the most amount of people. Yep. So if they make movies cheaper, they put it on streaming, you can hopefully have a flavor for everybody. Everybody can find something that they like, hopefully. Yep. But again, what do I know? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe it'll all go to theaters. Everything I said was wrong. Movies are going to be $1 billion budgets. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope there's a bit of both because I still like the experience of going to the cinema, but I am also the person who loves staying at home. But it also, like, the more things are accessible through streaming, it's easier to get to other parts of the world. I come from a country where every time there was an animated movie, it would either not release in my country, release a year later, and in Spanish. I was like, oh, I don't want to do this.
Oh.
So it was horrible. But with streaming, you get that access way quicker. But I also like you said, at least for me, I'm very new to seeing my name in the big screen. When I went to see the film that I worked on, it was so exciting to see my work and my friends' work up there and be like, oh, I remember how this shot was from reference to polish. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's definitely an event when you're going, like, especially when you're going with friends that you've worked with on the project. It is like a whole thing. So it does change that experience. But again, for me, it's like, if I had a choice, I would say, yeah, I would love that. I would love if the theaters were the same experience and I can go to premieres and go with friends and keep it that way. I just don't want my feelings to get hurt because I just don't know if that's the way we're going. I feel like we're not trending in that direction anymore. I feel like we're definitely trending in the streaming direction. So
yeah, I agree. Someone said, speaking of how things are changing, do you think after COVID we'll have more remote positions in the animation industry or not? And again, I know this is just your view as someone in the industry, but not the view of the industry.
So I absolutely hope so. I like the fact that I can work wherever. I do miss the camaraderie of like being with friends and being in the studio. And like, I will say, I will never be at a place like Blue Sky again. Like, there'll never be a place like that in my experience with my friends and the rituals that we had. Like, there are things that we did, that experience of being in a studio that was just, you just would not believe it. You know, in terms of, we would play dice to go get coffee, and we had rules, and we would go to lunch, and we would do all of these things. As a matter of fact, really fun fact, if you watch Spies in Disguise, there's a scene where there are the background Yakuza doing something with dice, and they throw dice and then they do something and they take a drink. That was actually an homage to us, who would play for coffee every day. We did that for many years. We would roll dice for coffee. I know I'm on a tangent, but it was something that we did, and it was really great. But now that studios see that you don't need to be in house to make work, if, again, from a business standpoint, it seems more cost effective not to have the overhead of the cool campuses, and then you're just paying people to be at home. Again, this is just a different, I know you're like, man, but we're artists, we're not the business people, and like, I get that, but I'm trying to think about my job being sustainable. And if it's like, not having these giant elaborate places to work, and I can work from home and still live and all of that stuff, it's kind of nice. And so I really don't know what the business people are thinking about, because I don't know the decisions behind some things, and I don't really want to speak too much about like tax breaks and all of that stuff for companies. But there's probably, I would assume, some type of requirement for people to live or to go to a certain place for companies to take advantage of tax incentives for their studio. Again, I don't know enough about that stuff, but I could see that being a reason why it's not going to stay 100% for everyone. But remote is not a new concept. When I worked for Real Effects, I was 100% remote. I worked from home. So I didn't go to, at the time it was in Dallas. I only went down there for like a month and change to see if I wanted to stay as full-time and move down there. But so it's not really a new idea. And even freelancing is the same. It's like, before, when I was freelancing, sometimes it would just be from home. So I hope it stays. It keeps the possibilities, because it does make it a lot easier to get talent that might not want to move. They might be like, I want to stay with my family, so I'm going to not leave, So, I mean, that's kind of one of the big decisions. And I'm coming from a different perspective because, like, for my family, like, I don't want to take my daughter out of school right now. And it's like, I know it's kind of cliche. You hear sometimes, like, I don't want my kid to move around. It's like, yeah, but when they get to a certain age, you don't want to move them out of their away from their friends. So staying home, being at home is it's just a nice thing. So I'm hoping they do keep that. And right now my position will be fully remote, so I won't be moving.
Yeah. I
Nice
definitely
option to
like
have.
remote jobs for like contract or short term because like for me personally, I would love to work in a studio one day, but I don't want to move for short periods of time. Like I love the fact that I'm job hopping right now and I'm able to just work from home, and it allows you to find a place cheap, save some money back, start, getting like set up in life. But then once I get to a studio that I want to be there for 3, 4, 5 years, it would be amazing to actually work at the studio and have that camaraderie, because I had that for about 6 months, and it wasn't even a huge studio, but it was so much fun working with other people and showing up and seeing people's faces while you're working, and just getting bored with your shot and going over and watching over someone's shoulder for a few minutes and just making small talk. Like all of those things I miss, but I'd rather be working remotely right now because I'm not long term anywhere.
I think there's like a certain creative synergy that you get when you're in person with people at a studio that you can get when you're working remotely. You just have to work a little bit harder for it. It has to be planned more than just happen spontaneously.
Exactly. That you're not going to run into somebody in the hallway.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like, that's just the way it is. For me, the fortunate thing for me is that there are other people that are working for Illumination from New York. So they do get together, and they do meet each other and stuff like that once in a while. So you still get to see face to face, just maybe not working in person. It's just like you go, oh, we'll grab dinner or we'll grab lunch, which is nice. Vaccinated though. We're all vaccinated. So
Yeah, my Wi-Fi cut off for a minute, so I don't know if you talked about this, but for me, I do like working from home for all the perks, but as someone who needs a visa, please no. Please, everyone, keep working at the studio so that I can keep getting visas and not work in my country. So there's this thing of, I like the hybrid method, but I also think that for a lot of us, it would be great if there's more studio jobs, just so that we can get to the cool countries where there's also more studios and more work.
There's pros and cons for sure, because there's the flexibility. For me, what I like is the flexibility of the time. Like being home, I can do whatever. Like, yeah, I'm doing some work and I want to go stand outside for a bit. It's a nice day. So it's nice that you could just do certain things like that when you're just home, But I definitely miss that camaraderie for sure. Being able to like brainstorm with people in person, grab coffee, just like hang out, joke around. It's not the same in Zoom. It's not the same thing. It gets old really quick, this digital interaction.
Yeah, I miss it too. I was in the studio for about 2 months before COVID hit. And I learned so much just in those 2 months, just because of the people I was sitting next to. They would sometimes look at my shot and be like, hey, why don't you do this? Or maybe I would just be like, hey, do you have a second to look at this? Whereas online is more of a whole thing where you also have to be like, hey, how's it going? How's your day? And takes more time.
Right. That is true.
Yeah. I don't know if it seems that for some people the stream is lagging. I'm not sure what we can do on our end. Dan, do you know if it's something on your end?
Yeah, it's just my upload. The company that I pay Wi-Fi to, it's been going bad all week, so my upload is like 5 right now instead of 50.
Oh,
so
no.
Not much I can do. They came out and looked at it Friday and was like, oh, everything's great, everything's fine, just we'll scan something for you, but now we're going to charge you $70 because we came out and looked at it. So
Oof.
not much you can do. So
yeah.
If we wanted to, I could switch over to one of you guys streaming, but we'd have to end the stream and restart back up again.
However you prefer.
Probably would be best because my upload is 0 right now. So
Madison, do you have everything set up?
No,
I have
Madison
nothing,
doesn't.
no.
You'd have to.
'Cause it's
I
all
could
the new
try
stuff,
on.
too.
I can try on mine, but it might cut off again. So
Let's just go with you, Sing, because mine has been acting up for about
okay.
an hour now,
Give me a second. Can people still hear us and see us, or is it so laggy that they can't see anything?
Yeah, they can hear us. We're but delayed because it pauses for like a minute and then it plays what happened 2-3 minutes ago. So we're like 5 minutes delayed, but we are still. They're not missing anything.
Okay, cool. So let me just set things up. And if people can still hear us in the meantime, someone asked something that is kind of similar to what you had already talked about, but maybe you have another input. Someone said, what animation tool gets you the most excited? But I would say, what gets you most excited about animation? Not just about helping people, but about animating itself, that you're like, yay, I'm very happy about doing this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's tons of things. It's coming up with like acting choices, like, finding something that's just fits the character, or hopefully fits the character. Convincing people like what your idea is. So sometimes you do something and you don't know if it's even reading or if people are believing that on the character. It's like getting some type of emotional response from my work is what also excites me. Hopefully more positive than negative, but any type of response is better than no response at all. I don't know. I really like just animating characters and bringing them to life and just having something that's not doing anything. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a character that's emoting and you believe it, or hopefully believe it, and, laugh or get scared or, again, evoke some type of response. I still get like an excitement out of that. And it's no different than starting a drawing from a blank page. That's just like, okay, there's nothing here. I'm overwhelmed. What am I going to do? And then just start going at it. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I've got something going on here. And now, hopefully people could see what I was trying to do. So there's still that passion for that, like the acting part of it. And yeah, it's because that's never going to change. It's like, it's never going to be the same. Like I'm never animating the same thing. I'm not ever posing the same way. Like things are always different. And so that's what's interesting about it for me. I don't know. I feel like I'd get bored really. Like if I get bored of something, I will stop doing it. Like I'm very quickly like, okay, I'm not interested anymore. Which is not a good quality to have.
Here's kind of a dark question. Do you see yourself animating until you die or retiring at some point?
A great question. Great question. I will be very honest. I would like to retire. So, but I want to still animate, but on my terms. Like I want to do it because I have an idea that I would like to get out, or I just want to do a test because it's fun. That is something I'd like to do. So I would like to retire for that respect, because just thinking about life in general, and not to get too deep or heavy, it's like I started animating because it was my hobby. I love animating and I was doing it for fun because this is fun to do. I was like, this is awesome. And then I started doing it because somebody was like, I'll pay you for it. I'm like, oh, this is great. You get paid to do what I love to do. But at some point when you're doing it, it's like, it is a job. Mm-hmm. And as you have that passion, but it's still a job. You still have requirements, and that restriction. It's not like, oh, animate for as long as you'd like, take whatever time you need on the shot. If that was the case, then I'd have a different perspective. But the fact that it's a job, I do want to not have to work forever. I would like to do other things, and I don't want to wait until 65 to experience that. So it's funny you bring that up because I talk about retirement all the time, trying to figure out how to retire. Because it's just that mentality of like, we have this mentality in the United States to work until you're 65, but then how long do you have to live after 65? You don't know. And I don't want to live until 65 and then, okay, I've worked, okay, time to retire. And then like 67, it's like, all right, well, my time has come. It's like, that's not fun. So that's why I want to try to retire as early as possible.
Yeah.
That's
Funny you say that, because a friend of mine and I were thinking, with how late we got started in savings and stuff like that, we're gonna be working till we're like 95.
Don't say that. Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
I don't know what it is yet. I'm still trying to figure it out, but it's possible.
I find that, for me, like, even as short as I've been in the industry, how when you're a student you have this massive, like, oh my gosh, the industry, it's so amazing, just get a job and everything will be perfect and amazing. And like, I still have goals that I very much want to achieve in the industry, getting into feature, working feature, doing all these different things that I want to do. But I found very quickly how much I enjoy doing my own thing. Like, very, very quickly, I'm like, I'm almost just as much or more creatively filled doing my own thing after hours. And that's why I still eat, breathe, sleep animation to some extent. Is like, I get done with work and I'm like, oh, I have this idea. The stream was one of those things. Was like, I wanted to do this stream and I have like 8 other projects. And it's like, all those things get me more creatively filled than actually working a job in the industry. But the job in the industry pays my bills and helps me do those things. So it's like, I found out very quickly that the industry isn't this beautiful, amazing, unicorn that's like, oh my gosh, it'll make me happy the rest of my life, kind of
It
thing.
is just a job, but it is a job you're doing because you love to do that thing. It's not like, oh, I wonder what I should be. I'm going to be, I don't know, a zookeeper. I'm trying to choose something that nobody here might be. And so I'm gonna be, and then you're in college studying to be a zookeeper, but you're like, I don't really have a passion for this. I'm just gonna do it. And then you just do it until you're retired, and then you're like, well, I didn't really love doing it. And maybe you weren't even great at it because you didn't have that passion to, like, because you love doing it. Because you're only going to get good at something that you love doing. Because you're going to give it more than 100%. You're going to give it 200%. You're going to work so hard because you love doing it. And that's why I think animation is great, because we all love to animate and get paid for it, but you can't get fooled. It's still, like I said, it's still a job at the end of the day. So it's not roses and flowers and beautiful unicorns at the end of the day. Sometimes it's like, oh man, we have this shot to do, and I need to get it done, and whatever. I need to find another job now because I'm, another contract. So there is definitely stress aspects of it, but it's still great. I would never, if you said, well, would you choose something else instead? I'd be like, absolutely not. No way. I would never choose something else. That's not for me.
That's great. For me, I find it funny when people are so sure about everything, because I've changed jobs, like proper degrees. This is my 3rd one that I'm going through. And sometimes people ask me, oh, what do you think you'll do in, like, I don't know, 20 years from now? Will you still be animating? Maybe I get everything that I got from animation and suddenly I want to move on to something else. I love my job right now, and I find it exciting because it's never the same, which happened with my previous job. I was a web developer and every day was the same day. With animation, you never know what's going to happen, because one day you'll get one type of thing. Maybe another day someone says, hey, do you want to work on this character and do the post library? So that's what I find super exciting about animation, the fact that it's so diverse, that there's always something interesting going on. But who knows what's going to happen 20 years from now?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's a challenge too. I think for me, that's why I stick to it. And I think that actually kind of equates to why I was not doing so great in high school. Not that I was like amazing, but I think I got bored pretty quickly. And so that's why I was like, I don't need to be here. Like, I'm not learning anything anyway, or at least I thought that way. And I don't think I was being challenged enough to engage me. And I think animation is something that's just challenging no matter what. It never gets easier. It's always hard. No matter how many years you've been doing it, every shot is always hard, right? Unless it's like, oh, just plop this cycle from another thing that was already made. That's obviously not difficult, but every shot is always challenging. So I think that challenge is what gives that spark.
Yeah, I agree. It's the same for me, because if I get bored, then why am I doing it?
Right.
My brain is just dead. So speaking about jobs, there's a bunch of questions that I'm going to put them all in the same bag, because they're basically about starting in the industry. So people are asking basically kind of what tips do you have, or what things do you recommend people do, either for the reels in terms of things that you have never seen before that you're like, oh, this would actually be very interesting, or tips, for example, for acting or getting into your class that you're like, oh, this would be useful and people are not doing it enough, that will help you grow in your career?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think it's really tricky. So let me try to answer all of it in kind of one. Well, the first thing is, when you're making a demo reel, you want to stick out because you want somebody to see it and not go, oh, wow, this has been done a million times. How am I going to, why would I hire this person? And I always say that in my classes, like, you have to do something that is just entertaining, right? The person who's looking at it needs to be entertained in some way, because no matter who you show, you don't know who's going to review your work. When I was at Blue Sky, I was one of 6 supervisors on different productions. And so it was like, okay, we are looking at demo reels. A lot of us, we all have different opinions, because sometimes you would see different things. And I can't speak for other studios, but I'm sure obviously the quality of the animation and all of that stuff you look for, but sometimes you may be looking for potential. You may see somebody and go, there's potential here because their ideas are strong, but maybe the polish isn't that great, right? But on the flip side, it also depends on when somebody is hiring, because if I'm hiring in crunch time and we need people to help finish a film, you really don't have time to hire for potential, because you're really hiring to finish up a project. So you may be looking for a different type of candidate at that time, right? So I know it's not like, oh, do this and then you got yourself a job, but it is like coming up with ideas that you have not seen a million times. And things that it's harder is that animation schools, there's so much content out there to be inspired by, but also influenced by, and you may not realize, oh yeah, I've seen this piece done, but not think about it. And I'm not going to mention any of them because I'm sure that there's people here who have done a lot of them. They're very consistent type animations and they're fine and they're executed well. But when you're showing your reel, you're just one of like 100 people who just sent their reel with the same concept. It's like, your character was doing this, or your character is this type of a character. It's like, yeah, everybody has seen this type of character a million times. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to stick out with coming up with an idea. It's like, oh, that's an interesting take. I never would have thought of that, but it's well done. The acting is great. The physicality is great. The polish is great. Everything is working well. Lines of dialogue, again, you want to avoid doing the same thing that's been out there a million times, since it does get tiring to see the same line read over and over again. Imagine getting a demo reel with everything from the 11-second club. It's like everybody puts that shot that they did, even though it's all different, you're hearing it over and over again. That's hard to do. So it's not really a one size fits all kind of a thing, because everybody has different things that they look for. But I will say it's like coming up with unique ideas, coming up with entertaining ideas. If you do send your work and you don't get an answer or you get rejected, you have to just keep pushing through. You have to keep working. Okay, maybe they weren't, hopefully, maybe you'll get a response on why, but maybe you won't. And if you don't get any reason why they're not responding well, maybe revamp your reel. Maybe look at some of the shots on your reel and go, they're clearly not responding to it. So maybe I should definitely revamp the first shot, because that's what they probably saw right away and making a decision pretty quickly. So maybe you do a new shot and take that one off. I had I had a friend of mine that was rejected from Blue Sky, I think 9 times. He was rejected 9 times. And then at that time, or not, when we were there, we would present our life story. So everybody would get randomly chosen. You present your life story and how you got into the industry. And he had almost every letter. I think he lost one, and he brought them all and he showed, these are all my rejection letters. And he goes, what he did was every time he got a rejection letter, he literally restarted his reel from scratch. He threw away every single shot he had and he rebuilt his reel. Now you may be looking at me going, that's crazy. Why would you do that? That's so much work. But my personal mentality is, if I don't do that, somebody else will. He did. He didn't get an answer of why his work wasn't being responded well to. So he was like, I'm going to just rebuild it all. And he just kept doing that. And so,
Was it, do you know if that was all with personal shots? Because someone here is asking, how does that apply when you send your reel with shots that you've done working in the industry? So I wonder how much of that he did, or basically what you would think would work, are personal shots versus things
I'd
that
say,
you've worked on.
if I know his history a little bit, I'm sure he had some professional work, but nothing big, not like a big studio kind of a thing. And I would assume the rest must be somewhat like personal tests and stuff. I would say if it's like industry stuff, then you have to look at the place that you're applying to and seeing, okay, well, am I in, let's say, visual effects? I'm applying to work in feature. And let's say a lot of my visual effects are very short little things that are not really demonstrating, let's say, subtle acting or acting in general, right? It could be maybe just some physical based thing. And in feature, I'll say things that I would look for physicality was great. Having great physicality is awesome, but we need the acting part of it. So you can have a really cool a physicality test, but that's not going to be the thing that sells you as much, at least to me. If I was looking at reels, because if you look at it, you're like, okay, I don't see any lip sync tests, I don't see any acting tests. All I see is like this running, jumping test. And again, that may work for other places, that may work for commercial houses, that may work for game studios, things like that. But for some feature, at least I'm only talking about Blue Sky, is that stuff is not, I would call that stuff filler, and not to be in a negative way. It was just stuff that's like, oh, that's cool, but that's not doing, that's like, oh, well done. I'm looking for the substance, right? But again, I can't speak for other studios because I don't know again, every person is different that's going to look at your reel. So it's really hard to say the mentality of different people, because like I can't even really talk about my friends who are giving their comments, because sometimes we would argue about, I see potential here. Yeah, but I don't think this is great. Yeah, but I see that they have a great idea, and I think if we work with them, that their posing would get better, their polish would get better. But you can't really teach ideas. Ideas is hard to teach because it's such an abstract idea on what that is, and it's very subjective. Acting could be very subjective. Like choices that you make, you may like it, somebody else may think it doesn't work, right? So it's animation it's a very tricky fine line, because sometimes you get a note and it's like, is it better or is it different? That's tough.
Especially because each studio is also very different, because I'm guessing a reel that would work at Blue Sky might not work at Pixar, because their storytelling styles already were so different.
Absolutely. So. That is 100%.
That kind of goes into a side question of what someone else is asking, but do you put more weight, I guess, on personal shots over professional? Because professional has like storyboards and directors and supervisors and so many cogs within a shot, you don't know how much the person actually did. Do you put more weight if you see a really good personal shot as opposed to a really good professional shot?
That is a great question, because I have seen in the industry where you would see amazing animation on a reel from a professional, and then they might come in and you look at the work and you're like, wait a minute, is this the same person? And then you don't realize how many hands were holding that shot to get to where it was. Yep. Again, it could be none or it could be a lot, but if there's a discrepancy between, let's say, their personal work and that, then you go, okay, something's not right. I wouldn't say there's more of a weight necessarily. You just take into consideration the whole package. Yep. You just look at the whole thing, because professional experience does still weigh pretty nicely, because somebody who understands the pipeline, understands the process, still does, is really important.
Yep.
You know, because especially again, if you're coming in during a crunch period and you already work in the industry, you just need to get caught up on some of the terminology of some of the tools, and then you're going to be going in a few days, and then you're animating a scene that, you know, that week maybe, versus somebody who's like, I don't know what a pose library is, what's a picker, like that could be a problem, like especially during that time.
Yeah, it makes sense. So we have just, I think, 2 questions that I can ask you, and then if you want to be free and go with your family, or we'll let you run free. One that is my personal question is, because you've been teaching for so long, how has your teaching style changed first, and also basically how did you change it? Because I'm guessing when you first started to now, you've evolved and you've seen what helps students the most, versus when you first started, maybe you weren't so sure.
It's a good question. I feel like, you know, teaching students teaches me a lot too. So it allows me to adapt and understand, okay, what are the needs of each individual? And that's why I started asking what people did outside of an animation mentor, because I did need to know, like, okay, well, are you taking on too much? And then being able to cater, I think maybe I've said this before, but catering my notes based off of that individual versus giving everybody the same quality. And not to say that I'm lessening the quality of notes that I'm giving to certain people, but it doesn't make sense for me to give notes to somebody who has, let's say, experience. They've animated in the industry maybe, and they are easy. They're like, they understand how to hit notes. They understand the note. They understand what needs to be adjusted. And somebody who's just very, very new and is having a very hard time, I don't want to, again, have them start over on a shot. I want to try to work with them to know what they can handle. And I feel like adapting to giving notes that they're going to learn the most from, versus trying to get everybody to the same exact level, because it's not possible. Everybody is different, which is why, like I said, my friend that I know went to college, went right to film, and then I did not do that, right? Because I just didn't understand it, or I didn't have the education that I needed. And so everybody has a different way of learning and a different amount of stuff they can handle. And so if I were to give 30-minute critiques to every single person, some people will love it. Some people will be so overwhelmed that they don't understand half the stuff that I'm talking about. So I had to start to cater to what is going to help that student the most, versus trying to make everybody do exactly what I would do. Because that's something else too, is that I don't like that either. I don't like to, and I've mentioned the hand-holding aspect, I don't like to animate through a student. I like to just guide them, and hopefully they will find the answer as well, versus me saying, put the arm here, turn the head this way. You know, again, just being a technician. So it's like, I feel like trying to understand the needs of each student is very difficult. But I can see that within weeks of working and seeing the work that they're providing and understanding that, I can see where they're at, and then what notes can they handle based off of what they're showing each week. So I think that is something as well. I don't know if I should say this, if I shouldn't, but I don't take being late too much as a personal, like at the beginning, I used to be very strict because that was by the books. It was like, oh, it's late, you don't get graded, because this is the process, this is the system. So if I have a student in this class, I said this, but don't be late. So I'm not as aggressive with that aspect of it. And I know, Sin, if you remember, I used to ask for 3 different video references, and I'm not sure, Madison, Daniel, if I did that same thing, where it was like 3 different video references for 3 audio clips. So that would be 9 video references, all completely different. I don't do that anymore. I do.
No, that was my favorite part. I learned so much from that.
It's only 2, because it's 3 clips. So it's 3 clips, but it's 2 different video reference for each clip, right? So it's 6 instead of 9. Because it was just, again, I was just trying to see the needs of the students and seeing, okay, this is a little overwhelming to do. it's like sometimes students are like, I couldn't get that many. Like it was just too much, or I couldn't think of another one for this one. And I know it's a great exercise, but I was like, oh, it's kind of a little overwhelming, especially when it's the first dialogue. So again, I think
two is a good number because I think I did two actually, because I think you asked for two already in my class.
Okay.
But that was already very interesting because it forced you to actually think of very ideally contrasting, not contrasting, but very different subtexts and ideas for the exact same dialogue. And for me, it pushed the way I thought about animation quite like a lot more than I was used to. So that's why I always tell people when they get into your class, I warn them also like, beware, this is what's going to happen versus any other mentor, but you're going to get so much more out of it because it teaches you how to think rather than, oh, this is my idea, great, done.
It's my first idea and I think this is really great, and then you fall in love with it and it's your only idea, and then maybe it's not the strongest idea. I always just assume my first idea is horrible. That's what I just go, okay, I have this idea, yeah, it's probably horrible, but I'll go with it, I'll have it as an idea anyway, right? So it's like, it just forces you to be creative and a problem solver, because when you're working on shots, the shots that I kind of have the most fun on are where there's not really a box, like the box is kind of open, and it's like, okay, the character is doing this and you know the goal, but like how it happens, or even you could change it, you know, you're like, oh, what if this happened, what if I did this might be interesting. So again, and you wouldn't get there if you didn't like brainstorm, come up with ideas. Like that's a big aspect of it, you know, it's the idea part. And again, I said it's impossible, it's not impossible, it's very difficult to talk about how to come up with ideas because it's just constantly think about something different. Just don't settle on the first idea. Just come up with as many as you can and see which one is the best.
And
and brainstorming with other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I hit a roadblock really hard in your class, was trying to wrap my mind around what an idea was. Because like up until like the end of the class, whenever like I would hear ideas, I would think setting. And I was always like, oh, setting, so like knights and pirates and like all the stuff that I think is cool. I would think, oh, I need an interesting idea, I'm gonna think about a setting that's interesting. And it took me a while, and it's still like a learning process because ideas are very, like you said, subjective, but figuring out you could have the most interesting setting you could ever think about, and it would be the most boring shot ever if you don't know what the character is going to do. Contrastingly, you could have the most boring setting ever. You could have a character in a gray atmosphere, and it could be a super interesting idea depending on what the character is doing within that. And learning a lot about subtext and stuff like that helped a lot, but also thinking about, you have the idea, you have the character's motivation, now what can I find that the character can be motivated to do that's interesting and stuff like that. And it finally clicked to me at the end of your class after I had started my acting shot, which I learned so much from that shot. I love the shot because of that, but I look back at it and I'm just like, wow, have I grown in the 2 years since this, or 1 year since this shot? Because it's like, that shot was like a catalyst. That one and then one after it. I hate both of those shots because I don't think they were very good, but I look at them, I see how much I've improved in ideas mainly.
I tell it to students all the time, and I know it's not the best thing to hear, but it's like, you may never use this shot that we're working on in this class ever, because if this is the first acting thing you're ever going to do, you're going to learn so much in the next shot and the shot after that and the shot after that, that you're going to look back and go, oh man, it's not very good. And then that's expected, but that's what learning is about, right? You don't just go, oh, I made an amazing shot in class 4, my first acting shot, amazing, I'm going to put it on my demo reel and for the next 25 years. You know, probably not. You probably won't ever use it on your reel at all. But that's just, you know, as long as you learn something, that's the whole point.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, if I still have my class 4 shot, I don't know, in my next reel, I'll be like, nah, I need something new.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with Dan. I think also the thing that helped me a lot was something that you already mentioned as well, was thinking about the goal of the character and the goal of the shot. That was something that I didn't even think about when I was doing body mechanics. And now when I look back, I'm like, oh, that's why all my body mechanics shots are so bad, because they're just doing things, but there's no reason for them to do them. And that's why they will never be out there in the public.
Well, that's why they're exercises, and you learned how to do body mechanics by doing that. So that's why you were doing what you needed to do at that point. You weren't putting the acting in there. You were just doing body mechanics exercises.
Yeah, exactly. So the last question that we have is kind of more of a technical thing. How do you go about planning a shot that you can't shoot reference for?
Oh, I mean, that happens pretty often with shots that I've had. I mean, if I can't shoot reference for it, like, you have to find another planning method. I mean, I did a whole talk at CTN about it. Is you could never eliminate the planning methods that are available. It's like, if you can find an interesting way to make stop motion as part of your planning method, you're like, oh, I'm going to take pasta and move it around and use it as a bouncing ball, and that works for you, absolutely do it. You know, so for me, it's like, draw. I do sketches of poses, super stick figures, like basic. I'm not trying to make a picture. I'm just trying to explore rough posing to see if the acting is working overall. 2D animation, you know, animation is animation. How you do it, that's, you know, the art form. It's like, I'm not a 2D animator. I'm not going to work on a 2D animation film ever anytime soon, but get, you know, if you have like a free 2D program, you know, TV Paint's awesome. I really love TV Paint. I'll use that and just plan it out that way, like rough in the animation, like, what am I going to do here? And sometimes I'll do it in Maya. Like, I'll use like primitives and move it around. I might bring it into TV Paint and draw on top of it, or I might just move it around for like choreography, right? If I can't like choreograph this movement or this dance or whatever is going on, it's always trying to have, or find reference of somebody doing the action if it's some type of physical activity you can't do. Like, when I have a shot, anytime I get a shot and I see what the requirements are, I instantly know how I'm going to plan it. I go, okay, I can't do a cartwheel, so I'm going to look for reference. Okay, I can do this, so I'm going to act this out, but I can't physically do this, so I'll find reference for that part. Or it's so cartoony, I can't really act it out at all, and it would make no sense, so I'm just going to draw it out, or I will do 2D animation and rough 2D animation. Like, just put some, basically it's no different than just drawing a couple poses and then putting it, roughly timing it out and seeing how it works as a whole. It's like, you can't eliminate any planning method. You can't say, oh, I don't want to shoot reference, I'm not great at reference. Like, you got to find you got to get the most out of what you're doing. Can't draw that well. I draw stick figures for my planning, so it's good enough, works. I'm looking for lines of action, looking for posing and how the posing is working with other different poses within the shot. Reference, I'm not the greatest person to shoot video reference, but I find what I need from the shot, from the reference that I'm using, that helps me with the shot. It's helping me plan it. It's not that I'm trying to shoot reference and capture the entirety of the shot and every subtle detail. That just doesn't work for me. But a lot of animators do. A lot of animators shoot their video reference and they copy all of it, and that's that. But that doesn't work for me because I can't capture everything I'm thinking about. So it's like, you got to find what is the right ingredients to like put together for you, and don't feel like it has to be only video reference. It only has to be drawing. Find, like, you have to shoot video. That's kind of like an industry standard. Like, video references, you got to get comfortable just doing that. So you can't eliminate that. Drawing, you could probably get away with not doing any drawing, but it's helpful. So I would recommend practice doing stick figure drawing for sure. 2D animation is the same thing. And it's kind of fun, like trying to do 2D animation, because the principles are the same. It's just the quality of your drawing is what might be different. At least it is in mine. So it's like, whatever works. Just the most important thing is that you plan it. Have to do that. Otherwise you're going to get notes like I got on that shot that was a horrible experience, and you'll keep talking about it years later.
I think one of my
you learned your
favorite-
lesson.
I think
I
one of
did.
my favorite
Exactly.
people to watch the planning process is somebody that you worked with is Nathan Englehart. He
Yeah.
always does that cube energy pass, and I just watch it and I'm like, how does he get that cube to look so satisfying before he ever even puts the character in there? Like that cube or that sphere looks so good, and then he just puts the character in, and it's almost 1 to 1 what the cube was, and it looks so good, and it just blows my mind. And I want to get there someday of like getting that energy in before you ever even start with a character, and it's impressive.
Yeah, because he's thinking about like just the timing of all the actions, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and just that energy and how that works, that rhythm that he's trying to create, and he's just trying to translate that onto the character.
Yep.
Like that part, like he knows, oh, that's okay, I got that, but now let me just figure out again, like the choreography or the timing and the rhythm of it. You know, I'm not sure his process. I don't know if he copies the curves from that sphere on or cube, whatever he uses, and puts it on the character. I'm not particularly sure about that, but I would bet that he brings the character in and sizes whatever primitive to that character.
Yep.
He might take a sphere, put it in the hips, and make the cube the torso or whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
that so it translates, you know, better.
Yeah.
But that works, right? It
Yep.
works for him. Whatever works.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just
Yeah, that's
to me it's
super
the
cool.
the foresight to like know what you want before you animate it. And that's what I think building your eye as an animator is a lot of the time is as a student you don't know what you want and you're just throwing stuff and hoping it sticks, but the more experience you get, you know what you want and you just have to put it in, and getting to that level helps a lot with animation.
That's why studying animation is also a helpful thing, because aesthetic is also a big part of it. Like, what is your type of aesthetic for like appeal? Like, how do you pose? How do you pose the face? Like, having that sense of appeal, you can't just make it up. You're learning it from things that you've seen. So find things that you think look good and go, I like the way that they do this, and mimic it. And then you start to develop your sense of appeal, right? And then it just, it's one of those things, it's hard to talk about, like it's hard to explain, but like studying things, that's what influences you in the choices you make. You're not just making something up. You most likely have seen it in your life and formed it into whatever you're seeing, right? Like my sense of appeal, definitely, I'm not going to lie, like I'm influenced by Disney movies. Like that is a sense of appeal that I think it works well, right? I think the way that they pose a face works really well. So I just steal it.
Yeah,
Copy
not
it.
just animated movies, but I feel like even your sense of storytelling can come from any other type of art form. That I
Yeah.
also think some people are so focused on animation, they forget there's so much else to learn from, especially when it comes to acting.
Oh, absolutely. You have to study other actors, because otherwise you're going to always act like yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Someone is asking, how do you avoid plateauing, or how do you deal with it?
I think it has to do with your passion for it too. Like I've seen animators plateau, but I feel like it's a choice. I feel like, and everybody's going to hit a threshold for sure. When you hit it depends. I don't know. Like it's hard to say, but it is tied to your passion for learning and getting better. Because those that I've seen plateaued, I feel like don't have any interest in studying animation and trying to improve upon it and like living it and breathing it still. Because it is harder the more you've been in the industry to do it every minute, because there are other priorities that obviously come into your life that you have to do. It's not just being home animating all day as it used to be, right? So I think it's just you have to stay inspired. You have to continue to learn. You could never have an ego and think, oh, I've been doing this for this long, so I'm awesome. That is when you plateau for sure. When you're like, oh, I'm already great. I don't need to learn anything. Like I'm the best. It's like never. You can't be like that. You'll stay stagnant. You'll always be at this level, and then you're going to start to become bitter because you're going to think you're at this level when a student is now over here because they worked really hard. Because it doesn't matter how many years you've been animating. Doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 15 years or 5 years. It just matters of like your passion to learn and get better and be hungry. Right. Again, my passion is always like, I love doing it, but I also need to keep working at it, because there's always going to be somebody working harder. There will always be somebody who works twice as hard, 5 times, 10 times harder, but you got to keep up, right? You can't just go, I'm going to animate for like a couple hours a week and I'll achieve my dream. I know people, and I'm not going to mention this is their story to tell, but I know somebody who's already established. She had like a family and a job, and he would come home after a long day of work and work until like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, working on his reel, working on his stuff, and then going to work that day and then doing it all over again until he achieved his goal. And he did. And he worked in film.
I think I had him as a mentor.
Probably did. I'm not going to say his name. It's just, again, not that there's anything bad. And he's a friend of mine. It's not my story to say who it was, but great guy. And he had that passion.
Yeah, I agree. That's the best way, especially since already the student level keeps getting higher every month. You can't just be like, it's okay, I'll just get better.
Right.
Without trying.
You have to be somewhat competitive in a friendly way, because if you're not on top of your game, you will get lost in the shuffle. And I think that's actually, to circle quickly back to why I like animating and supervising is great, is that I don't want to supervise and not animate enough, because you need to still you can't manage things that you're not doing. Right? I don't want to be an old man going, oh, this is the way that you should do it. And it's like, okay, old man, now animate this. And you're like, I can't do that. Like, I can't, because I haven't done it for 50 years. It's like, no. I need to be on top of my game always, because you have to practice what you preach. If I'm going to teach it, I need to be doing it. Right? That's kind of just the whole thing. And if I'm going to be supervising, I better be animating too. Just my thought.
Yeah, that's a great way.
How many people have left? Is it just us talking now?
No, I think
we have so many people
70-something
still here.
people here.
Oh, okay. So we didn't bore. I didn't bore everybody with my answers yet.
No.
There's still time.
No. Everyone's been active and asking questions. So, no, everyone is showering with loves. People, especially people who were in your class, are like, oh yes, I've learned so much, and yes, that was so helpful. So, yes, you've touched many lives.
That's awesome. And I missed that from CTN. It was so awesome when we had CTN and I could see the students in real life. And it was like, oh, this is like, makes it so much
fun.
Mm-hmm.
I know, and it's all over for now.
Yeah, I think they are doing it this year, but I doubt many people will go. So,
wow. In person?
Yeah. Apparently, I've heard some people who got booths and everything. I wouldn't be comfortable going.
No.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe by next year or the year after we'll be able to have something, because it's like the year I was gonna go was last year. So I'm just waiting. I'm like, okay, I'll get to go to CTN soon. Maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, it'll happen back. But...
I'll go to that one. Whenever the next one is, I will go.
Yeah.
But not
let me know. Me too.
It has to be a good one. Yeah, it has to be a good one. Not this year. I'm not going this year.
No. I want it to be open enough to where we can do everything, like back to a resemblance of normality. So it's not a stifled meetup. It's like go to a restaurant, hang out, eat food, all that good stuff.
Going to the pub. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be super fun. Yes, it was so nice. Like I went to 2 CTNs, and when the last one I met you, right? And it was so much fun. It was so cool seeing everyone.
That's my favorite
how tall
part.
everyone is.
I tell that to my students. I'm like, when I go to CTN, people are like, oh, wait, I thought you were shorter. And I'm just like, how do I look like on camera? Like 5 foot or something? I don't know.
I always assumed you were like 5'9" or 5'10" whenever I saw you on camera. And then I figured out that you're like 6'2", and I'm like, okay, so
no,
you're
I'm
like 6'1"?
I'm 6 foot. I'm 6 foot.
Okay, so you're like Oh, basically my height. Okay.
Yeah, and I would have never known that. I would have never known based off because we're sitting down and
Yeah.
like I don't know how I would guess. Like you could tell me anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone thinks I'm super tall, and then they meet me, and it's like, oh, well, thank you for that reaction. I'm sorry. I'm so short.
That's weird. It's like my brain doesn't go there when I see people. I don't go, oh wow, they're really tall or they're really short. I don't know why. I judge people based off of their character, not based off of their height.
Oh.
That's because you're not as short as me, and then everyone is towering over you, and you're like, hi.
That's
hi.
maybe. But I'm the same height as I was when I was 12. So I think I hit 12 and then I was like same shoe size, same height. And then I've just been the same ever since. My shoes haven't really changed, maybe a little older than that, but I feel like I haven't really grown all that much. I feel like I've always been the same-ish size.
That's funny. Yeah, me too. I think, I don't know when I stopped growing, but wasn't that much of an effort anyway. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions, but if not, we can let you be free and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. So super grateful that you came into our stream and answered all of our questions, which were quite a few.
No
It
problem.
was super interesting to hear you talk.
Oh, awesome. I could promote this X Keys if anybody's interested. If
Yes.
anybody, so there's this, if you are interested in being a technical person and you like hotkeys, the X Keys, I'm not sponsored by them. I don't care if you buy it or you don't. You can buy the one with the less keys, more keys, or not buy it at all. I don't really care. I'm just going to share it.
This is not a paid ad.
This is not a paid ad at all. It's a very convenient thing for like if you're lazy or if you really like to have hotkeys everywhere. You could basically set hotkeys to everything. And it's not very difficult to do. You just say, oh, I want Control F or just F to be this button, and that's the end of it. And so you could set all this stuff up, and that's why I decided to make little icons. So I started printing like, oh, this is a key, this is Alt, this is undo, redo, all of that stuff. It just makes you a little bit faster. Again, a lot of studios do use something similar. So if you invest in one, it does give you a little bit of a familiar kind of use. They are also quite pricey, so if you don't want to buy it, I don't blame you. So, just wanted to say.
Speaking of that tool, someone asked if there was any animation tool that you really loved working at a specific studio. Maybe it ties into this X Keys.
There are some proprietary splining stuff. I will say I did start using Animbot for a little while, probably a couple of years, maybe a year and a half or so, maybe a little longer. And I love doing that because a lot of people use that. So a lot of studios use that. So if you use it at home, I know Animation Mentor has it, you can use it there. Being able to use that and then go to a studio is very familiar with that. And so I did use it at Disney. Like they had it, Blue Sky had it. I think Sony has it. Like it's just familiar and you know where things are. And again, it's pretty powerful when you start to use some of the things. I might use some of them. I might use some proprietary stuff. It's hard to say. I don't use a ton of special scripts for things. Like if you ask me to use a world space transfer something, I put something on the world mover and I need it on the body for a walk cycle, you're not talking to the right person. If you're asking somebody about constraints that are super fancy, you're not talking to the right person. But it's like I don't use a ton. Pose libraries, pickers, and then some spline tools, which again, some of it's hard to talk about it because it's not going to make sense when I talk about it because it's proprietary to the studios, but it's ways that you can adjust your spline curves and it's very quick for splining. So it's just like a lot of tapping on the keyboard to like clean up your curves quicker. That stuff is awesome. So, but Animbot is
I
short.
feel very jealous. That sounds very cool.
Well, I don't have it now, so don't be jealous. I don't have it anymore. But but I think Animbot has a similar functionality in terms of being able to move the keys around up and down based off of the neighboring keys. It's just having it to a hotkey, which I think you could do with Animbot as well. I just never did. which you can, again, it just makes it quicker to create easing in your motion. So.
Oh yeah, I think there are some I use a lot that are like push pull easing is out on Animbot, and they're very very useful for anyone here. If you go to the Animbot website, there's a lot of documentation on all the tools, and there's so many tools that definitely recommend it going in there.
There's so
Absolutely.
much.
And we
It's overwhelming.
We possibly have a stream in the future to showcase some of our favorite, because that was something somebody suggested for us to do. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was actually tasked with going through every tool in Animbot for Blue Sky. I don't know why. I'm not like super technical, but they were like, hey, can you do this? Like, go through every one and like see why. Because basically we needed to retire some of our tools that we had. And then we wanted to see what were similar in Animbot so that we can get rid of the ones that we had because of just the maintenance on it. When you have a million scripts and something breaks because you move to a new Maya or whatever, the maintenance on it is really, you need people. You need a lot of people to maintain that stuff. So Animbot had its own, obviously has its own maintenance for that stuff. So we were switching over to that. So I went through every tool, trying every single thing, and I was just like, I'm never going to remember this. I'll never remember using this world transfer space thing. Like, never needed it.
There's so many.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm
also,
not this
your
far,
dog
so.
just walked by. It's so cute.
I know. I heard her little legs climb up the stairs. Oh, there she is. There she comes.
Oh.
Anya, come here. Oh, she's not going up
She's
because
on
the
a
doors.
mission.
The door's probably closed because I'm probably talking too loud. So she's trying to go up.
How old is she?
It's so cute.
She's 11.
Whoa.
Everybody's like, oh, she's such a cute puppy. I'm like, no, she's 11. We got her a year before we had our daughter to see if we can keep, like, if we were trying to see if we can keep something alive. So we were like, okay, yeah, dog, we kept the dog alive for a year, so that's good enough. So that's how we know. I know her age based off of my daughter's age. So she's going to be 12.
Oh, people want to see the dog, but I think she went upstairs already.
Oh, there she is.
Oh,
There
she-
she is.
Anya, come here.
Watching.
Come here. Come here.
Oh, she's coming
Come on.
back down.
Come on.
You're very commanding. I see.
Come on. Come on. Come here. Come on. Come on. I know you want to go up. Come on. Come here. She's gonna just stretch. Come here. Come here. This doesn't go that far.
Oh, she's.
She always stretches when she's about to get picked up. She does like a
Oh,
little.
look at
she's so
that.
She's cute.
Oh.
She's like a cat. She's the best dog. She doesn't make no problems. She's like super. I could just hold her like a baby.
Mhm.
Like I tend to hold her like a cradled baby like this.
I love it.
So cute.
Oh, that's so adorable. Did you get more outfits for her?
Oh,
I
the
think
mic
you're
got
muted. Yeah, I think the mic.
Oh, I pushed the wrong button. No, she doesn't like to wear any outfits. I took her in the pool. I bought a life vest for her and I put her in. She did not like it at all. So she's very particular. So she doesn't even wear a collar. See, no collar.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so cute.
And she snorts.
I love it.
She snorts like a little pig. Sometimes it's so loud at night that you have to yell at her.
Whoa. She's so tiny though. How can she make so much
Yeah.
noise?
Yeah. She's a little yappy dog. She kept me company because my family had gone away for the summer while I was working. And so it was just me and Manya.
Aw.
Just talking to a dog all day. Kept me company.
Bonding time.
Yeah, so
It's a good company. Dogs
oh
are
yeah.
not bad.
No, she kept me busy, so it's like it was nice.
Yeah. And it forces you to be active because you need to take them on walks. So
Right.
Right.
Which she hates. Just so you
What?
know. No, she's the opposite of what a regular dog should be. She's definitely like a cat. I take her out. If my wife tries to take her out right now, says, Maya, let's go for a walk, she actually runs and hides. And not only that, she will actually growl and be aggressive, which she's not really that aggressive, but she will be aggressive and I have to go get her because she won't be aggressive with me. And when they were gone and I was taking her for walks, she was excited to go. She was super excited to go for a walk every day. We had a routine. We go out, she goes to her place, we walk around, and then come back. But She's lazy. She's a little diva. She needs to get picked up after a while and be carried. So normally I'm like carrying her around like a football as I'm walking, and people are always like laughing about it.
I love it.
Great.
Little princess.
At least it's manageable. I have a German Shepherd at home, and if he decided not to walk and I had to carry him, I would die.
Yeah, no, that's a big dog.
Yeah. But so cute. And someone had mentioned before, I think they took your class in 2013 and you were in the exact same room. Is this the room where you've been teaching for the past 10 years?
No, I'm trying to think if I was in the same space, because when I first started teaching Animation Mentor, I was living in a different city, closer to Blue Sky, actually, 10 minutes away, which was awesome. I could walk there. That's how great it was. But my apartment, the apartment we had, it was a walk-in closet, and I made my walk-in closet the office. But again, I don't remember the time frame, so it might not. Maybe 2013, I was in this house at that time. I can't remember how long we've been here, but it's definitely different. It's not the same. I've renovated this like 3 times already since then, so it's not the same for 2013 at all. Not even close.
I noticed the Will Smith drawing is gone. It used to be back underneath your TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Whenever
Oh, no.
I was in your class, you had the Will Smith picture back there.
Oh, wow.
The one that
no,
you drew.
That's all like my wall. I would give you a tour, but it's on a webcam. So, but I had my wall is filled with art. So
Yeah.
like there's always art around, like everywhere. So like I have hanging everywhere. Not just my art, just like art that I've collected. So, and I've got my other work desk is over there, and then my art station with my easel, not my easel, my giant clipboard, and I also have a guinea pig. Surprise, surprise. It was not my guinea pig,
Aw.
just so you know. This is what happens. This is what a parent is like. My daughter wanted a guinea pig, and now I have a guinea pig that she never sees.
How old is it?
2 now?
So let's say,
like
I
that.
think I was in your class when she got the guinea pig, because I remember stories about the guinea pig.
Yeah, so she got
Yeah.
the guinea pig. I went and just got it because she wanted it. My wife did not want it. And then my daughter just lost interest. And so now I have a guinea pig. He keeps me company while I'm working. And then my daughter got a fish. So my daughter has a fish too. So I had to take care of the fish, the guinea pig, and my dog while they were away. So that was fun.
She's still interested in the fish?
I told her yesterday when I picked her up, I said, you have to take care of your fish because I will no longer take care of your fish. So the responsibility is gone on that. The guinea pig, I'm keeping the responsibility because, they wanted to give it away. And I'm like, I can't do it. I'm invested now. That's Maximus. I can't get rid of Maximus now. So yeah, so that's fun.
I love it. Yeah, I don't know how long they live, but it's not going to be a super long commitment.
A guinea pig is like 8 or 9 years or something.
Oh,
That's a long commitment.
I thought it was
Considerable
way
amount
less
of
because, my cousins had guinea pigs, but he had always 2 and one ate the other, I think.
Are you sure it wasn't hamster? Because I think
Oh,
hamsters
could
are...
have been hamsters.
hamsters.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they're small and different.
Yeah, they
No,
could
this
have
guinea
been,
pig
yeah.
this is a decent sized guinea pig.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They're not they're kind of pointless pets, to be honest, because they don't, like, I only have 1, and I know you're supposed to have 2 kind of sometimes for like camaraderie, but it doesn't like to be touched. It doesn't like to be picked up. It doesn't like, it's always running away as if you're like attacking it. Its fight or flight always kicks in.
Yep.
So it's like, I can't really do anything with it except keep it alive. So it's like, I can't pick it up like my dog and go, oh, nice. Like, oh, it's like, no, you're not touching me. You're not doing anything. So that's unfortunate.
Guinea pigs can stink sometimes too.
Yeah. So for me, I have to clean it all the time. So that's
Yeah.
always fun too. Not that I need another thing to take care of, but
Yeah. Gives you a break from work, I guess.
yeah. And also, since it's right next to my desk where I work, I have to keep that thing clean. because it's right there.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and my dog doesn't like it either. So I think I'm the only one that's keeping this thing in the house right now. My dog doesn't like it. My wife wants to get rid of it because she thinks it's a rat, and my daughter just lost interest. So
It's just you and Maximus
Poor
now.
guinea pig. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And my daughter named it Max. I call it Maximus because I feel like it's a little bit more dignified. So I did train my guinea pig back to my guinea pig really quick. Is that when I come down, every time I come down, it would go to its cage and chew on the bars for me to open it. And then I would open it and put my hand out, and it would crawl into my hand. And then I would feed it. And then once it has its 3 bits of snacks, it instantly goes, like, you could see its eyes kind of like flicker, like something is not right, like this is over, and then freak out, and then it tries to like jump out of my hand, so I had to put it in. So it's a routine. It's like with Pavlov's dog, like with the bell and the salivating dog. This is like when I come down in the morning, I turn the light on and it instantly climbs onto the ramp, starts chewing on the cage. I open it up, it goes on, same, it's like routine. And then once I give it the 3 snacks, it like runs off I have to like be careful because I know it's going to jump out of my hand, and then like funnel it back into the cage.
Whoa.
So it's like it knows every time, and I don't even have to have a snack to get it to do that. So I started with luring it with a snack, and then now it just comes out, and then I give it the snack. So
Does he ever run free?
I've brought him out in the yard and let him chew on the grass, but that's about it. So
Poor pet. Yeah, I don't see the point of guinea pigs.
me neither, but I've committed. I'm not a quitter, so this will stay until its time has come. So, or unless we move and we can't have a guinea pig or something.
Oh, I think we've gone over all of the questions that we had for you. So yeah, thank you so much for everything and for being here and for always supporting us.
Yeah.
No problem.
You're always there for us. And
Oh, no.
I love you.
That's
You're amazing.
awesome. No, you guys are the best.
You are. And super good luck on your new job that you'll be starting soon.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Excited?
Yeah, I'm also trying to enjoy my time off though, because I know what's going to happen once I start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
So,
But you're starting on a new project, right? It's not like you're in the crunch time.
no, I might be starting in the middle. No, at the beginning when they just started ramping up on a project, or they may put me on a project that's in the middle of production. Not sure yet. We'll find out.
Nice.
Which may be announced or not. I'd rather not say it because I'm not sure. But if you know any of Illumination's projects, there is a project that they're working on now that could be cool to be on.
Nice.
Nice. Noted. Apply to Illumination. Cool. Well,
Awesome.
then, we're gonna let you go, and thank you for everything. Thank you for everyone who came up here and asked a lot of questions. Everyone is showering you with love in the chat if you happen to read it. So yeah, I don't know if Dan Madison, you have any last words?
I was just gonna say apologies for the interruptions. I do have a recorded version that I will upload to Twitch, so it'll be no interruptions. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you, Ray, for hopping in and always being a good friend and always down to talk about animation.
Awesome.
Thank you so
No
much.
problem. No
Our
problem.
favorite
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah, that's great. Anytime.
So, with that,
Awesome.
I'll say thanks everybody for coming and hope to see y'all in future streams.
Hi, everyone.